Well, good morning and welcome to the first week of Liturgy and Pentecostal Theology. My name is Steve Spears and I will be teaching, facilitating this class for the next 8 weeks. I'm so glad that you're able to join us. Every week I'm going to try to start out with a brief introduction, video introduction, just to let you know what to expect, give you any announcements, and any information regarding the classes. So it'll be important for you on Monday mornings to catch these videos. I'm a little late this week, but I hope everything is well with you. I understand there are a couple of you that are still waiting for your books, and that's understandable. Just communicate with me where you are and any difficulties, and that's the best way to go forward. I'm here to work with you, not against you. And so it is my job to help you succeed, not only in this class, but also I feel it's a responsibility that I have to give you tools to help you through your academic progress. One of the ways I do that is I share various links and information on the syllabus page, and you'll find very helpful links to an ATLA database where you'll want to get familiar with to find articles for your paper. In fact, there is an assignment that gives you some extra credit on that to find a couple of articles, and it's a kind of honor system. Just let me know you were able to log on to Atlas and find the articles, and I'll give you some extra credit towards your paper. I'll give you more information about that. Also, there are links to the books, links to articles that I have you read. There's also a link to my doctoral thesis that I did with Gordon Conwell, specifically regarding liturgy and Pentecostal worship. And I would not mind if you use that as a resource for your final paper if it so fits your topic. Speaking of that, you do have several assignments, written assignments. One of them is your personal story that is due by the end of the week. I'd like to see that, and just to get to know you better. It helps me to understand who is with us and what's going on in your life, your academic career, where you are in that. Look at that. If you have any questions about that assignment, please let me know. There's also a midterm paper that is a reflection on one of the chapters of the book. Also, the final paper, which will entail research and the need to use Turabian footnoting and Turabian formatting. And if you're not familiar with Turabian, you need to get familiar with Turabian. She's going to be your friend throughout your academic career, especially if you stick with the Pentecostal Theological Seminary. They use Turabian. So you'll want to be familiar with that. There's a link on some quick guides to some Turabian formatting. I highly recommend that you look at that. If you have any questions about that, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Turabian, you need to let me know so I can guide you through that. Also, for your written assignments, there is a required cover page for each assignment. I have a template of that on the syllabus page, so you'll want to use that. I will not grade off for that in the first two papers, but in the final paper, I grade heavily. I count off for grammar, spelling, Turabian. I count off for formatting, even with the cover page. So you'll want to get any questions about those answered before you get to that final paper. And speaking of that, you're going to be wanting to think about the final paper. You don't want to wait till the last week to write it or even to research it. You're going to want to research that now. And I would recommend that you send me the topic that you want to write about, and I will hopefully give you some guidance on that and maybe some resource information on that. I know a lot of you don't have access to libraries. You're perhaps not on campus like a regular student would be. And so you'll want to use not necessarily books, unless you can get a hold of those, but you'll want to use articles. And that's where the ATLA database will come in handy. And if you're not familiar with ATLA, again, I highly recommend that you get familiar with that. Well, let me just say that for this course this week, I know that, again, a lot of you are waiting on your books. Try to respond to the books the best you can, even if it's just, hey, I looked at the book, I looked at the back cover online, whatever. If you can't get the books by this week, at least respond to your fellow students' remarks on that. And we'll talk more about that in subsequent weeks about when those responses need to get in. Um, as far as the class is concerned, just let me recommend that you get a hold of the syllabus right away and just go through that. I'm not going to take the time. I just don't have the time, on a video. Nobody wants to read through a syllabus with a professor by video. And so I'm going to just recommend that you read that word for word. Make sure you know what the assignments are. Make sure you know the deadlines. Make sure you know what the book requirements are. Tomlin has a new edition for his book, so you're going to want to get that. And so the syllabus is the guide. You'll notice that throughout the course, I'll be changing things online because this course kind of has evolved and things get changed. So the requirements on the syllabus are what counts, not necessarily what you find online. And again, if there's any questions or if there's any confusion about that, I would say always refer to the syllabus and never hesitate to shoot me an email to ask for clarification. Let me just say a couple of words about our text. The first one is by Tumberland, Pentecostal Sacraments. This is a wonderful introduction to Pentecostal liturgy. Yes, we have a liturgy. It's just not a free flow. We have a way that we come together as a people and worship. It's not completely uniform, but there's pretty much set in a certain pattern. And Tomlinson goes through and shows that, and also kind of helps us with what some have referred to the order of salvation, being saved, sanctified, filled with the Spirit, right? You've heard those terms as Pentecostals, but also our understanding of healing and the return of Christ. And so he talks about that, and he pairs certain liturgical practices, sacraments, if you will, and we'll get into all that, with those beliefs, with those understandings of our way of salvation. And so this is going to be a wonderful resource for you. I hope it helps you understand kind of what direction I want to go in as far as what it means to be Pentecostal, people who believe in the fullness of the Spirit, still believe in the work of the Spirit, the gifts and the fruits of the Spirit. And so this is a wonderful introduction to that. And paired with that, we're using James Smith, his You Are What You Love. James Smith has done some incredible research on anthropology. James is a Pentecostal philosopher, Christian worker, and professor. And this book is a nice complement to what Tomlinson talks about. And so I would just say that as you go through this, some of this material may be new to you, and perhaps even stretching your understanding. Maybe it'll be eye-opening to you, the way that there are liturgies that not only that we practice in the church, but also social and cultural liturgies that shape us, and that the worship practices, the liturgies of the church were designed to counteract those. And he does a wonderful job speaking to that. We're going to critique this book, kind of push back on it a little bit, but I really appreciate what Dr. Smith has offered here, and I hope you will enjoy that too. Well, just let me say this, that throughout the course, in the various lessons, I'm going to be also giving you suggested readings. There is all kinds of things being talked about, not only in the Pentecostal circle, but in evangelicalism as a whole, about going back to some of the ancient liturgies of the church and pairing them, bringing them together with a modern, in our context, Pentecostal worship. In fact, that's what my thesis is about, and if you read that, you'll see that. But there is this move, it seems, to bring our modern expressions of the church, our modern worship, and all that God has given us in these days before the end, this wonderful surge of worship, and bringing us back to some of the more ancient forms, the ancient ways of worship. And again, this is what this class is all about. And so as we go forward, I just hope that you will be stretched, you will be open, and that you will have an opportunity to share where you are and to give your thoughts about what I believe is this move of the Spirit. And just let me say one more thing about our interaction together online. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your voice. I'm not asking you to necessarily quote from the books, although there are some ways that you do quote, but I want to hear how you are responding to the book, how it makes you feel, how it makes you think, perhaps where you disagree. We're all open to that. But let me just say this, in our disagreements, whether with the text or with one another, because we may have some disagreements, I want to make sure that we don't turn this into some type of social media fiasco, as you perhaps would understand what I'm saying. It seems like we are living in very toxic times, but we want to avoid that here. And so we want to engage one another with respect, um, with honesty. I mean, we're not afraid to be called out. We're not afraid to be said, hey, I disagree with that. But in our disagreements, we are going to show respect, and that is just a policy for the seminary. And so, if there's any problems with that, I will call that out privately, of course, with you and try to bring some correction. And so, I just going to ask that we just go forward with open hearts, open minds. Let us be open to what the Spirit is doing in and through us, and in and through this class. Well, I'm going to close out for today. I'm always going a little bit longer. I just want to keep these down to about 10 minutes. We're always over 11 right now. But just let me say again, welcome. If you have any questions, any challenges with the assignment, if you get sick, if there's something happen, I know most of you, many of you are pastors. Listen, life happens. And if you have to do a funeral, if you have to go out of town, the best way to make sure that you're going to stay on track as far as your grade is to let me know. I am here again to help you, not to hurt you. And so if you have challenges with getting assignments in, let me know. Let me know ahead of time. Just don't drop off or don't just submit it. Communicate with me, okay? Well, I'm going way over. Let me bless you before we go and just bless our time together during this 8-week course. Father, I thank you for these students, and I thank you for their ability, financially, time-wise, and otherwise, to be a part of this class. I pray that you would bless this commitment to give themselves to their education, and that this will be more than just an academic exercise, but this will be a real sense of them being fortified in their spirit and in their ministry to be the men and women of God you have called them to be. Thank you for this time, and thank you for this class. Thank you for the seminary and all the ways that they help us in our efforts to share the gospel, to spread God's kingdom. We bless you for that in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you. We'll see you online.